free. Oh, free. It was hard enough for me to fight the storm. Were you hoping that I could keep us both warm? Hearing sirens playing from the start. Hearing sirens playing from the start, from the start, from the start, from the start. Hey, hey. Did you hear them sirens playing?
All right. Well, that song didn't quite have the hit that I was like. It started off really cool. It was like boom, boom, and it was like really. I thought it was gonna have like a crescendo and then really hit. That's when I love to do the transition. Just like, yeah, it's like they went into like verse 2. I was like, dang it, I don't want to make this a 5-minute opening. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. Kissums. Today we have Hunter and Kevin, and this is a special podcast because we are going to do something that we told you we were going to do previously, and we're going to talk about the Great Kerfuffle. And the history books will record the political and manipulative interwinings, the espionage and attempted suicides that are not suicides, assassinations.
God, holy shit.
Assassinations that came from the Great Kerfuffle. The Russians were involved. Okay, so anyway, yeah. Well, let's start out. How are you guys doing, by the way? I know I woke Kevin up.
I'm here. I'm along for the ride.
Okay, so
Go.
Kevin's still 80% asleep. That's good. I like it. How about you,
I'm
Placebo?
great, man. I'm
Okay.
great. Summer, I'm getting paid doing nothing. Feels good.
Mhm. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I kind of do, but I have to pay my pay back. But yeah, so about a while ago. Well, I don't even remember how we got into on the last when we started kind of touching on it. I don't remember what the topic even was. We were like, oh, we should talk about when we all got
Yeah.
cranky with each other. And it was not actually one event, just for the record, for everybody to understand. There was like
Right.
multiple like periods of time where one of us would be upset at the other one over something dumb, and then something would. It was it was over time, over I would say what, like 3-4 years, I guess. We
Yeah.
rotated.
I mean, the joke was that of the three of us, there was always one linking connection that was broken,
Yeah.
right? Like, either I got along well with the two of you and you guys didn't get along well with each other, or, some
Yeah.
variation where one of us just had an issue with someone.
Yeah.
And there have been many. There have been many, many instances that caused the Great Schism, the Great Kerfuffle. So I can think of two off the
Okay.
top of my head. I can think of one with me and Evil, where then I was gone for like a year. And I can think of one between me and Preacher, where then
Sure.
Preacher left and started streaming and got into that stuff afterwards,
Mhm.
right? Those are the two that there are probably more that I'm forgetting. So I'm relying on you guys to recall more as we do this.
And then, because I remember there was one where me and Evil got it. That's where the jet skis and sea-doos comment we always say comes from. And I don't think we even remember what the original argument was about.
No idea. Yeah.
But we definitely got very upset about it. But I don't think we were upset at each other for a long, long time over that. I feel like that one was one where we got kind of upset at it, but then eventually we're like, what? This is dumb.
I think that was the point of the jet skis and skidoo comment. It was like we're literally arguing from two different angles about like the same dumb shit.
Yeah. Oh, that was something else we can cover is our varying communication styles, and that may be a huge part of why we all got cranky with each other. Is probably just
Absolutely.
communication or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you two talk about? I mean, I remember one of the ones with you. It didn't have to do with like Rocket. Like it happened during
That's
Rocket
exactly
League.
it. That's
Okay.
exactly it.
So,
I- Man, doesn't it sound stupid?
It
Isn't it like
does.
the word?
Yeah, I was gonna say we're saying on a public podcast we didn't talk to each other for a year over
Because of
Rocket
Rocket
League.
Yeah. So, we played a ton of Rocket League when it came out, right? And I think we were actually pretty decent, right? Like
Mhm.
there were the ranking systems, there was like the top rank that was like Grandmaster, and below that was Master, and then there was like Diamond or
Diamond.
something like
Yeah.
that. And we were at the top of Diamond, like practically breaking through, right? Very, very just on the just so close. And so naturally, I- there are things that I'm bad at that I don't care about. But if I'm good at something and
Yeah.
and I want to, do well, right? I attach some value to it. And the reality was evil could mess up, and that was okay, right? I'd be like, okay, that's fine. But evil was more consistent of a good player than I was, right? I would have some good plays, but inconsistently I would mess up and cause problems, right? So there was one time I made a mistake. I like left the net when I shouldn't have, and I fucked it, right? And the enemy scored. So all right, I can recall saying I just can't, right? And just dropping everything, just unfriending evil on every platform, unfriending quite a few people on every platform, and just being gone. Like, all right, this is, and in reality, I don't think it had anything to do with evil. I think it was me. Like, I don't like where my life is at right now, right? And I need to, snap, jut something out, right? Chuck something off the side of the ship because it's not going where I want it to go. So, but that was the inciting incident. I messed up once in Rocket League, and then Evil. I didn't talk to Evil for like a year.
I think Evil even like he said something. It wasn't like he blamed you for it, but I think he was trying to make a joke of it or something. Like, wasn't
No,
that?
no, it wasn't even a joke. It was okay. So if I'm angry at someone, then I'll go like super quiet. And I remember that wasn't the case here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I sighed after the game,
maybe
or I
that's what it
like
was. Yeah,
slapped my forehead, or like
yeah,
I
you
did
did something.
something,
Yes,
and that was what I thought like sent
yeah, because it
Placebo
made him think you were like
or sorry,
criticizing. Yeah, because you were
or
like it made you feel like he was like, oh, this guy, and I don't think that was his intent, but you just
it wasn't, and then I just didn't know, like what. It's like I don't know what happened here.
that makes me think.
After a few years, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
I
right.
get
Yeah,
it,
that's
right.
like all arguments, right? When you look back, you're like,
Right.
ah, okay.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
So that was the big one between me and Evil that led to me just being gone for a year.
Yeah.
Um,
And then
and
you
then
finally
there
came
was.
back. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna jump to the one between us, but
Yeah, that's what,
if
well, I
there
was.
are-
Well, no, because I think it's a. So part of it was like you were saying you weren't happy. I think I was in a very similar spot when we were doing your D&D campaign.
right.
But so I wasn't like you guys were used to me being way more engaged, way more happy, funny, just doing my thing, right? And I was a little bit,
Yeah.
at least during that time period, I was frustrated and didn't like life in general and just was not in a great place. So I wasn't particularly jovial and I know that, and then I was also like not showing up as regularly as I normally would have. I was late. I would, it was, I just wasn't on point. But I did actually, to be fair, I was still enjoying it. Like I still enjoyed being with people, and just I was, in a frustrated state. And I remember you guys kind of discussed and thought that I just hated what I was doing and that I hated playing the game and that I was miserable being a part of it. And so you kind of, and I think you also probably took some offense that you were putting in the hard work and I wasn't, showing you the proper respect by, also putting in equivalent work on my end as a player. And so I remember you guys had a conversation, and then like I went to kind of like, hey, what time are we doing it this week? And you're like, hey, we all got together and discussed and decided that you weren't having a good time, and you need to get the boot, basically.
Oh, okay. So I think you're so close, but I think that's a bit. So we.
That's
did
how I
discuss
remember it,
it,
but that may not be how it happened.
I made an executive decision,
Oh,
right?
okay.
No one else said we need to get Preacher out of here. But afterwards, when I told them what had happened, they said, "Yes, I understand the decision."
Okay.
Um, so maybe that's where you're getting the attach. But I don't know that we ever. In reality, it was just my decision that I did it. It was me. I'm guilty.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair. But yeah, so and I didn't like. And that's where I guess I got, and it still is a pet peeve of mine when people like
Sure.
tell me what I'm thinking. I get very defensive and very frustrated at it, especially when it's Nick, and especially since it was like, and I do think at that point in time, I mean I guess we do it a little bit, but not as nearly as bad as it was. But I feel like our group constantly talked about each other when the other people were like. I think it was really bad at that point. I think we may discuss now, but I think at that point in time it was very like we just always got on and criticized whoever wasn't there. And so in my head, I also heard that and got really like, all of a sudden I felt very attacked and very isolated. And so I just went like, I did the same thing you did. I deleted everything that Placebo was.
I remember I was dating Dominique at the time, and she was like, "Preacher removed me from Pokemon Go." And I was like, "That's nuclear."
Yeah. I got. That's right. That was when you got me into Pokemon Go. By the way, it's a what was it? Gray Cliff 10th year anniversary because I told people I was always going to tell them what I was smoking. But yeah, and then I remember I wrote you. I don't remember the whole thing, but it was I do remember the gist of it was you're too full of yourself, and then the big point was I said you're too big for your britches. I believe
that is the line.
That is the line.
You're a spoiled brat who's too big for his britches.
And that, of course, made you not particularly want to mend bridges either until like we kind of we kind of and it was a bit much, and I should I wrote that I probably could have had. I could have made some of the points I was trying to make in a much better and rational and probably more accurate manner.
Yeah.
Had I not been upset and hurt when I wrote it.
Sure.
And so it's, it was probably a topic we could have discussed anyway. It would have been good for us to hash it out, but not with those like emotional highs that we were just. And so, God, it was like 2 years. I think that one lasted almost 2 full years.
It was longer, yeah. So the one with me and Evil was like a year, I think it was. Like pretty close to just exactly a year. But the one with you sort of leaving was, I think, it might even have been 3 years.
It may have been. I was thinking, because it was almost the entire time I did streaming. I think I was done streaming by the time I came back. And so I think that was...
You were, yeah.
So, yeah, that was... Yeah, it was probably at least 3 years, which is, wow, it's crazy. And it was really crazy because poor little Evil would always try to be like, he would go and hang out with me for a little bit and then have to switch over to your guys' Discord and then switch back over to my Discord. And he was like, I want to play with everybody. And he was trying to...
I do remember in the situation, it did feel like you were not having a great time, right? I do remember the one that made me make the executive decision was it was some sort of like naval battle, right? Where people were doing things on the ship, like with a cannon or something. You probably remember this, right?
Oh, yeah.
You had an assignment due like that night, and so you were like, turn one, my character jumps off the side of the ship, come pick me up when you're done, right? And then you worked on the assignment, right? And it's like, I understand, right? You got other stuff to do, right? It's important, but in the moment I was like, how is it possible to perceive this in conjunction with you claiming, oh, I'm having a great time?
I remember the other part that I was a little bit frustrated with, and I do remember this. It was that my character was not made. I didn't make it knowing that we were doing like naval stuff, and so all the stats that I did not match naval stats, and I felt completely, especially for a few in a row, it was like I was watching everyone else play because there's nothing I could do consistently. Like I couldn't use any of my cool special stuff. Everybody else could cast a fireball. I remember that being a part of it where I was like, I'll just wait until we land and then I'll be there again.
Sure.
And so I guess there was like, at that time, I was a little bit like annoyed with it too, because I was like, listen, I got papers to do. If I'm making this kind of I mean, because we were doing like 2-3 hour sessions, I think, at that point in
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I think 3 was the average.
Yeah. And so I do remember thinking, like, if I'm going to use 3 hours of my time, I would like it to be like where I feel like I'm actually playing the game as opposed to just showing up and watching everybody else. And so there was a little bit of probably me just being like, all right, fine. I'm as useful just jumping off the boat as I am actually playing. And, you know, I'm going to go write my paper now.
Yeah.
Um,
And if I was better at communicating with it, I would have probably said, "Look, man, you provide a lot of fun to the group just by your personality
I
being
should have stayed.
involved. Like, so even though, you know, you don't feel like you're providing much with the character,
Right.
but I kind of rely on you to help elevate the others, right? Because they don't have the creative personality, spontaneity, and Evil fucking knows it, right? Not calling him out, but like some of the others that we played with, right? Like they don't have that creativity that conjures the atmosphere, right? Whereas you do. And I probably should have said, like, you know, I kind of rely on you in that. And when, you know, the fun guy shows up and like is just on camera doing his paper,
Yeah.
not paying any, like it's a negative atmosphere.
No,
right?
I get that, yeah.
How is anyone supposed to get, you know, into it? And that would have been the right thing to say.
We should have had a good talk about it. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, we were younger and immature.
Younger men.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Full of testosterone. No. But but it is funny how like,
older and immature.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, I can't remember how long the one with me. I mean, me and Evil have had a couple of dusts, but I don't think any of ours have been like long. Like I feel like we had a little bit of an argument back. I mean, way back in the Battlefield days. But it was, I don't remember what it was even about. And then definitely I do remember the ski dude. I don't remember what it was about. I just remember we really kind of like fought, and then we came back after not very long. We're like, what was that? Why are we? I don't know. It's dumb. Let's just get over it. But I don't know. It's interesting. So yeah, there's always a point where like, and then, by the way, we also had 2 Discords. There was like Placebo's Discord, and then there was my Discord, which also kind of made it, everybody was shifting to one Discord or another. And so if we were fighting, then like when Evil and Placebo would fight, Placebo would come hang out, or he would be in his Discord and he wouldn't come into mine because Evil would come into mine. And then when me and Placebo, Evil would have to bounce between them. And there's always one connective person that was kind of stuck between the two, trying to, which is good. I think in the long run, it's good because it did, to a degree, keep us connected long enough that when we got over shit, we could actually somehow reconvene. I think Evil did play a little bit of a part in me and Placebo finally.
Yeah, I can't
patching
remember
things
what
up.
game it was, but it was literally Evil wanted to play a game with the boys, and he couldn't play a game with both of the boys, and he was like, "You guys got to sort this shit out because I want to play this game with you." I can't remember what the game was though.
I don't either. I'm also at a loss at this point in time. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's the great kerfuffle. Is just even good friends like us, lifelong friends. Good friend. Like it's I guess how the relationships are, even non-romantic relationships, as far as they know. You're gonna have like dust ups. You're gonna have disagreements. You're gonna have to, and communication is just. I mean, as we've talked about, like it's so key to like keeping. It's hard. I mean, no matter how good you are at communication, it's still hard to be 100% accurate and make sure misunderstandings don't happen. I mean, it's just really difficult. So it's keeping those lines open, I think, is really valuable. I don't know. What do you think? You're the communication man. I know you love communication.
Yeah, I focus on it a lot. I really think it's like a universal panacea. I think that if we could all like communicate what really is in our hearts and our minds, like the world would be a beautiful place, like, just incredible. Even if what is in your heart is, hey man, I don't like what you're doing right now, right? Like, throw that in with, you know, I care about you as a person. I think you're quite good at this, that, and you know, but this one thing really, really irks me. It makes me think you don't respect me, blah, blah, blah. I think if we could all do that, it'd be a beautiful place. I focus on it a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Largely because I've never tried to be good at it before, and things have gone awry, and now getting better at it, things are going better. So I just think it's, you know.
I agree. Try to see if there's anything else that I could directly connect, or if I to what we're talking
Well,
about.
you did mention one thing that I think that we believe different things about. Um, you said it's a pet peeve of yours when others believe that they know what's in your head better
Oh
than
yeah,
you
that
do,
yeah, and you
right?
liked it, yeah.
Yeah. But I genuinely think quite often we are our own worst judges, right?
What?
Like we can't
I agree with that too.
accurately picture, what. So I think that although I'm perhaps not a neutral third party because we have a relationship here,
No, I agree with
um,
you.
I do think generally others can see things that we ourselves can't within.
I
So
I would say
that was sort of
where we
yeah,
disagree is not that you're wrong or that I'm right. I'm just a little more 50-50 on it. I think,
sure.
well, especially me and you are pretty good at picking up people's tells. I think we both have what they call high emotional IQ. We can kind of like, it's kind of sense when like, oh wait, this is off. Like I'm getting what you're putting down, and I can tell it's different. Um, and so we often do get our guesses pretty accurate. But I think there's a danger in that we are still human, and so there's just stuff that maybe we don't understand, or a personality that we just can't wrap our heads around, that could provide, or elements of a story, personal life, something else that is like bubbling up that is causing this that maybe we don't know. And so I guess, I mean, this is more me coming from experience of constantly doing that, because I'm tend to fall in your category where I do go, no, I know what you're like. I
Yeah.
do call people out, but I've seen it have, even if I was right, it may not have, like, sometimes it's not right. Like, if that makes sense. It's like, if I gave it time, they would have come around to it, or I don't know. And I've been wrong. I mean, I think if I'm honest, there's time or two where I've been like, oh, okay, I thought it was this, and this, because all the circumstances seemed like it was pointing this way, but I didn't know this one thing, and that one thing completely like flipped it. But it's not that. So yeah, I wouldn't say that I disagree with you. I just, maybe I'm a little more. Maybe I'm just more cautious before I apply. I may be thinking I know what they're thinking, but now I'm a little more cautious before I engage in being like, I'm going to tell you what you think.
Well, I think in our case, the communication breakdown made it to where, with the pieces of information I had, I drew the conclusion any intelligent, reasonable person would
Yes.
draw. But that conversation would have provided the other details to help.
Yeah. And we're flawed humans. It's even the brightest of us swing and miss sometimes.
Yeah.
Actually,
Always
did
gonna happen.
did you guys see that the guy with the highest ever recorded IQ, and he's currently the highest IQ record, he's a Korean, and he's been on this like kick where he has been like Jesus is Lord and all that stuff. He's been on a business. Oh yeah, it was a big thing on social media. But it was just a thing. It was just, people were really shocked because, right, like a lot of people connect high intellect with being like purely science, right? And
yes. People love to assume that the dumber you are, the more religious you are.
Exactly.
And the smarter you are, the more secular. Right?
And I think that's
We don't
actually
believe in
why,
these fairies.
if I remember correct, I think that's part of why he was doing it, is he wanted to show, like, it's not necessarily that he's like everyone else. He's just like, you can be intelligent. You can have high intellectual processing and still come to this conclusion. It's not an anti-intellectual position.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it was great. Yeah, I thought it was cool. But we were talking about high intellect, and I was like, yeah, I know a guy. Well, I know him personally because, I watch Korean stuff all the time, and that makes me his best friend by proxy. Okay, so speaking of intelligence, so during the most recent UCLA graduation, okay, they have a camera that like basically does like how the NBA, they'll like zoom in on you and you can like dance and go, oh, I'm so crazy or whatever. One of the students held up a laptop and scrolled on his laptop, and it was proof that he had done his final project that they have to do to graduate, his like major project, completely AI. And he was showing it on camera that he didn't do it at all. It was all AI prompts that he did, and that the AI wrote his thing for him. What are your thoughts? Like, yeah, what are your thoughts? I'll save mine. I'll let other people talk first.
Evil, you want to go? I feel like I'm monopolizing the
And
thing.
you're fine. Again,
He's just here for sex appeal.
I'm listening and processing. If I have something, I'll jump in.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, it's me and Placebo with a possible evil. I like it. he's like the producer that all good podcasts have. You know, where like they just jump in every now and they're like, "Oh, Jamie," and then Jamie like says something, or they're like, you know, they just hop in once every blue moon. So okay, Placebo, evil Placebo. I'll just.
I mean, look, I suppose we always go down this rabbit hole. Like
oh yeah, I guess yeah.
I don't like AI.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't, right? And everyone's productivity, this and that, and it's like I get it. We are eroding the human soul bit by bit. We are taking what was once a beautiful masterpiece and we are just shaving it away. We got a cheese grater up to it, and slowly but surely we're whittling it down until it'll just be a fucking rock.
Mm-hmm.
And no one seems to care. Right? No one seems. I respect to the kid for seeming to care and being like, "Hey, look, this was definitely not cool, right?" Like, unless he was like, "Hey, look at."
Oh no, he was celebrating. He was like, I gotta wait. Yeah,
right.
No, he was just.
Makes it worse, obviously.
Yeah, and what I've seen a lot of online is people being like, "Well, this is basically the death of college education," right? Like because
but I think we've been there, man. Like the college education thing has
it's been dying. Right? Yeah.
If Harvard's intake of money is so extreme and they're raising their acceptance rates by like 0.2%, 0.3%. I heard a great quote from Scott Galloway that was like, "You're not an institution for learning. You're a hedge fund."
Yeah.
Right. It's basically what is going on. So you should lose your tax exempt status for being a school, right? Because you're not a fucking you're a hedge fund. And I was like, yeah,
I think a lot of schools like that.
If you're raising your acceptance rates by almost nothing, raising the class size by almost nothing, intentionally keeping it small so that you can be like, if you come to our school, right, you can say, I got a degree from Harvard, right?
Right.
And that means something because if double the people had that degree, that devalues the degree. But
I think we've already seen that happen with undergraduates, right? Like when they started making it basically anybody could get
paid to get a degree.
Get paid right in.
I've never had more freedom and more easy work than in undergrad, right?
Yeah.
I tell all of my kids in high school that the AP courses you will take in high school are harder than any college course I ever took.
Yeah, you almost have to go. You almost have to go to graduate school, and they do like, oh, well, now you're in graduate school, you have to learn how to write. Like it's crazy that we've almost done because we kind of did that to high school, right? It's like, oh yeah, but now you're in high school. Now you got to go to college to be able to really people to, and now it's kind of shifted because everybody can do undergraduate. To now it's like you almost have to go grad school before it even has any kind of applicability of proving that you actually know anything. And that's I think another thing they were saying. It's like with AI, right? I mean, people are getting out of college and they know nothing. I mean, they are just almost as bad as they were when they were in high school. You know, they just didn't learn anything. And so it does devalue. It's like I said, I think in a comment on Twitter, I did say something like, the problem is also the way the system is set up right now, that it is valuing the piece of paper more than the knowledge, and that the schools have set it up to where you're not learning. It's almost like they're not teaching you as much real life applicable skills and knowledge as much as they are teaching you academic stuff that can almost only be, only be applied within like. So I'm going back through my beginning. I'm getting my PhD. I already got one, right? And I just while I'm looking for good, solid, consistent work, I'm going back a second time, right? One, loans help keep the bills paid, so that's good. Yay. Two, I thought it's better to have, a second. I mean, if I'm not doing anything, I could either be playing video games, sending out resumes and getting nothing, or I can send out resumes and do school, and I'll end up with a second PhD. But it's like I'm going back through, and I've noticed like all these beginning business courses, almost all the information we're covering that's actual business stuff could be covered in like 2 or 3 weeks. The thing is, so much of their time is spent teaching you academic standards and academic and it's like stuff that really doesn't, like, once you get out of school, like APA formatting just doesn't matter that much, right? Like outside of school, no one really cares. No one cares if you used past tense in your, like, it's a lot of stuff that only applies inside of academic, and if you continue on inside of academia. And I think that's a big problem with academia, why it's lost its value, is it got so full of itself, and so, trying to basically just make it about getting the sheet of paper, that it lost its initial value, which was it's supposed to teach you, like, you have a higher knowledge of something that could then be applied to society. And it's we were talking about, I actually got quoted in another dissertation. Someone was doing their dissertation and they quoted mine. But I feel good about my dissertation because I intentionally made it about a real world thing. I made it about live streaming and live and like social media in a sense, but how communication affects that and how the culture's working on. But it was something that, like, advertisers could use it. But it's a current. It's kind of like the shift where people are focusing on marketing and news media and stuff like. It's like it's new entertainment, and so we need to understand it and know how to. And so I did it thinking, like, this is a usable set of knowledge. But then you see somebody post a fucking PhD about, the racism of the kiwi candles or some dumb shit, right? And you're like, you're fucking my PhD up, man. Stop. Like, I hate you. Like, I generally get really upset because I'm like, the good PhD people who actually have knowledge and are getting thrown under the bus with the the useless PhD people who don't know anything of value other than,
because everyone just talks about academia, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't talk about the good little, like, 5%, right?
Yeah.
or the bad 95. There's academia in general.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I get it. It devalues yours. We had a guy at our school. He taught English for a semester before it was clear it was not working out, right? So we give it. So here's how I do it, right? I'm like, hey, first day, look, guys, you don't have to take notes, right? Some people work well with notes. Other people work well just listening to me tell the story, right? I teach social studies. It's all sort of story-based. And I know that if I have to write notes while I'm writing stuff down, I'm missing what's being said. So it works much better for me to just listen and then afterwards sort of consolidate, right?
Right.
But other people work better with notes. So that's what I tell them. Take notes if you need to. If not, don't worry about it. We had that English teacher, and he spent, I think, 2 weeks trying to teach them. I think they're called Cornell notes. I don't know if you've ever done this. It's like it's a way you take notes where you divide the page up into like 3 sections, right? It's apparently a good way to take notes, but they in that 2 weeks kind of didn't learn any English, and they only learned this academic fixture. And this relevant thing for with what they then will not use in other courses, right?
Right.
And it's sort of shaping the way that their brains work around this 3-part structure, and not sort of allowing freeform creativity in the other realms. So I get it. I don't think it's exclusive to college or academia, but I definitely think it's a systemic infection, man. That shit is cancerous.
Yeah.
And I think it's everywhere.
Yeah, I struggle sometimes because I do know, like, where, like, high schools have almost completely eliminated. I mean, yours is a private, so I think you guys get a little more capability of still teaching good learning things. But, like, in public schools, we'll say, have eliminated very much the memorization element. And I've seen a lot of people talking about how valuable memorization actually is in being in life schools. You have to know information to be able to process it. And so if you don't have it actually stored, you're going to struggle. I mean, at least to some degree. I mean, you may not have to know every little detail, but that Frederick guy that was the Prussian prince, he fought the French guy, or what. I mean, at least in some degree, but, like, they've completely eliminated, like, actual memorization. So people struggle really hard with when you get into real life and you do have to have, like, information on command. It's very difficult for them to develop that, because it's a skill you have to learn. It's not natural. It's not in it. It's like patience or a lot of other things. You have to, like, struggle through it and force your brain to learn it like a muscle. So yeah, I don't know, because like I don't want to like get so free form. Like I am kind of a free form kind of guy. Like when it comes to like do what works for your brain, but then there is sometimes where you just have to. It's good to do something
you
you're
need
not
an
comfortable.
element of structure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, I guess my point is the structure doesn't have to be Cornell notes.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You know, have a structure that works for you generally, and a system that functions with you. I mean, I tell like, there's a great quote: the limits of my language are the limits of my thoughts. Right? Like if you look at a sunset or a sunrise, and you don't know the word radiant versus someone who does know the word radiant,
Yeah.
those two experience that sunrise quite differently, right? Like you can you flesh it out with your thoughts about it,
Or at
with
least
the
your ability
language
to
that
express. Because I
have.
don't. You may experience it. You're like, I just don't know what this word is that tells someone. It's like.
I think it's harder. I think you can experience it without the language, but I think it forces some mental effort towards it. That it is
Yeah.
easier with different
I
vocabulary.
can see that.
And thus, if you have the greater vocabulary, you have greater attention span almost, right? Because you
Yeah.
don't have to donate as much of your attention to something at a time. But anyway, I emphasize to the kids a huge part of my class is just learning the vocabulary, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then if you can memorize that vocabulary, then you have a tool going out into the world to, if you see something happen, you can give it a name and categorize it and then move on, right? Yeah.
No, I like that. I think that's. And I would say it's interesting. I find myself. I have a really good lexicon, especially for understanding when people say, I go, "Oh, I know what that word means."
Yeah.
But sometimes my brain struggles to pick it out. You know, like if I were to use it myself, there's times where I have a hard time with the recall necessarily. But if someone else uses it, I fully grasp. Like I can read a paper from a medical journal or from a business journal or from a communications journal on a high level academic profession, and I can basically process everything they're saying and understand it. And the few words I don't, you can kind of learn those because you know the rest of them, right?
Yep.
But when it's writing, and I guess that's why I like writing, because right there, I don't fucking cut myself off, but I can just, it slows me down enough that I can process it, and I can go, man, there's a word here, and you can take 3 minutes going, oh, that's the perfect word, right? Whereas, like, if you're talking to communication, no one wants to sit there and make, look at you, just make a face while you try to figure out
3
what the word
minutes.
is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is, yeah, I agree. I think it's, lexicons are good, man. You learn words. Words are good. Words good, not bad. Gosh, I was trying to hold on. I'm gonna find something else. Oh, good. I'm looking at the things I saved for this podcast, and one of them is a picture, and I know it. And I remember it being a very poignant thing that I wanted to talk about, but I have absolutely no idea the actual point that this was going to make. And now I am sad.
Oh, is her
Brett.
name Brett Cooper?
Yep.
Brett. Yeah.
She was talking about a guy. It was actually, she was reacting to the video, and the guy was going on. Oh, he was talking about, I remember just how, like, people are, their expectations, and how it affects our, like, actual real world relationships, our marriages. Social media affects way more than just trying to feel pretty or feel like you have the biggest car. He was saying, no, people are posting, like, even like, oh, I know how my husband came home and he gave me these flowers and he did this. It's like everybody has this expectation, right? It builds up this expectation. Here's our family on vacation. We're so happy. No fights, right? And it's like it's had a bigger social impact than just, like, we know it hurts, like, girls and their self-worth over what they think visually, but it impacts everybody, and everybody has this, like, ridiculous idealized version of everything, every element of their life. What it's like going to work, what it's like, I work. We were talking about it. I wake up at 5 in the morning, and then I, do 12 penis push-ups, and then I eat my 7 grams of protein in between. Well, 7 grams is not much, but my 12 eggs of protein, and then it's like no one actually does it. Even successful people don't do that. Warren Buffett, his breakfast every morning was a McMuffin and a coffee. It's like he didn't wake up at 5 and run a marathon and then, eat a kale sandwich or something. Anyway, it was just talking about how I thought it was interesting. It's like, no, like you have to grind through the muddy parts of a relationship.
Yeah.
You have to grind through. It's not easy. And everybody goes into marriages. He was saying this is one reason divorces were going up, but it's really peaked is because we just don't expect the grind.
Yeah.
And people go into it.
Notice it. Is that James Sexton on the bottom there? Is that guy? If you show him to me, I can tell you. That is James Sexton. Dude is awesome.
Okay.
He's a divorce
Yeah, I
attorney.
loved it. Yeah, I loved watching it. Yeah.
He is one of the most insightful people I've ever listened to. Really, really good in everything he's in.
Keep talking. I got pee.
No,
Sorry.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I think that a lot of this, like I said earlier, it's about atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
I think everything is like 90% atmosphere. Teaching, creating a positive teaching environment is 90% of the challenge. Comedy, right? The jokes that you say do not matter at all. What matters is that the audience is in an atmosphere of humor, right? If you look around and people are laughing, and it can be the dumbest joke on earth, but you get into this hive mentality in groups. This atmosphere matters. And I think social media leads to bad atmosphere, right? All around, right? An atmosphere of competition that is like unhealthy, right? But always in every aspect. And that can't help but seep into your brain.
It's a different kind of Special Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's trying to outcompete each other in attention grabbing. And
The producer just came in.
Hello, James. Good to see you.
I agree. It was.
Go
ahead.
I forget the exact situation that happened to me, but a girl I was seeing did something, and she was and I was like, no, she asked me to do something. I was like, I can't do it. It would create a bad dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that matters more to me than doing the thing, right? Like it doesn't really matter what it is, but like, if you throw trash on the ground and you're like, pick it up, and I go pick it up, right? It's like, I get it, but it kind of creates a bad dynamic,
Yeah.
right? If you're like, oh, hey, honey, I dropped that. Can you get it? Yes, no problem, right? That doesn't create a bad dynamic. But you saying, pick it up,
Yes.
creates a bad dynamic, right?
No, I agree.
And it's just the atmosphere that matters so much more. Because is it inconvenient, right? The action that I would do is the same in both scenarios.
Yep.
It doesn't matter, right? Yeah, I'll pick it, but who cares? But if I listen to pick it up, we've instilled a bad atmosphere.
It takes it from gratitude. Thanks, or honey, I respect you and I appreciate this action.
Yeah.
If you could do this but I am letting you know I appreciate it too. Like, I expect this. I demand this. You are
Right.
a slave almost type of mentality. Like,
Right.
it's, and it does. It just
But
changes.
I think
the
so much
intent.
of life is you need to create the good dynamics, right? The
Mhm.
good systems, the healthy cycles that feed into each other.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm super apprehensive about anything that would potentially introduce a negative cycle, which is why I don't have any of the social media stuff, right? I
Smart.
don't have any of that because yes, it is possible to be involved with it in a way that doesn't create a bad dynamic, but it is abundantly easy to do it in a bad dynamic way.
Yeah.
So I just think you got to be careful about that stuff, right? Really, really careful.
No, I agree.
Because unbeknownst to what you intended, it has all sorts of negative side effects, or it can, right? Like in this with the social media. I think she's right. I agree with her. She's a smart girl.
It's funny because you were talking about he was a divorce lawyer, and he may have been the one that said this as well. But he was saying, or somebody was saying, that at least once a week, sometimes more. And he was like, "This is a fact. Once a week, they have a group that comes, or a couple that will come in, try to get divorced, and it is because the husband or the wife, doesn't matter, one party was cheating on the other, right? But they were using their phone, and Apple ties in all their stuff, and so the kid was using the iPad, for their stuff.
Yes, and the text started
And
flowing
the
through.
text flow, and then
Yeah.
the partner sees it and realizes and he's like, "This happens." What
Yep.
I think he
No,
said
that was
Apple is
him. I
one of the
saw that.
biggest
Yeah.
boons to the divorce lawyer community that he's ever seen, because he's just every week somebody's coming in that got caught cheating because Apple.
So, by the way, just you remember I told you there were a couple of podcasts that I really like. One of them was Diary of a CEO. That's where that's from, by the way. That's
Oh, really?
that's James Sexton talking to the I think his name's Steven, the Diary of the CEO guy. But that's where that's from. I'm telling you, it's good.
It's
right?
good.
It's
Yeah,
really
you're
good.
right. I will now look this up.
But yeah, I don't know. I worry about that all the time, right? Like I had a huge argument with several of my coworkers at Carline one day because I said I'm really against the tracking apps, right? Like the ones that like sort of tell you where a person is, and immediately they start throwing in these extreme cases. What if my grandmother has dementia, right? And I'm worried about her, and I need to find, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, maybe in that instance, it's okay, right?
Mhm.
Um,
But that's not
and
what you're. Yeah,
but generally, right? I think perhaps that's one of the only cases where it can be good, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're like, my
Maybe a
friend Amanda,
child, if you have a child who's just starting to like go out on their own.
I have a bit of an issue with that. I don't know, right? Like sometimes yes, but like let's say you do that, you're taking away an opportunity to build trust with the person,
Okay,
right?
I see, yeah.
But on the other hand, right, you don't want them to go and like get shot, right? If
Well, I was
they're,
thinking more,
like,
like if they get kidnapped or something. I was thinking more
Yes,
along
yes.
those lines, like not
Well, I think
not necessarily
any
that you're tracking
kidnapper
them,
is
but
going to
yeah,
throw the phone away,
that's true.
right? Like but I do get what you're saying. There are some
Now, if you
instances
stick
where
an Apple tracker up the butthole, no, I'm just kidding.
so legitimately, and
Yeah.
you can
No, that's
but,
smart.
like if they put a chip in like someone's arm to like and that was known knowledge, guess what the kidnappers would do as soon as they get
Cut it out.
someone? Hot, see
Yep.
ya arm, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's a good way around it, but I'm very much against those sort of programs
I agree.
and that sort of all that, for the
I mean,
reason that it removes the ability to gain trust with another human
Yeah.
being, right? That is hugely valuable.
And I do think you learn by having to act according to trust as well. Like it's not just
Yeah.
on the parent side, but it's also on the kid side, being like, "Hey, I'm going to try." You have to learn, and then a lot of times you learn by not abiding by the trust and seeing the disappointment and feeling the hurt
Right.
by somebody you love, and that establishes that kind of like builds
Absolutely.
that element in you as well. Yeah.
Part of being a kid or even just immature, right? Because I
Yeah.
know people
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
were so sheltered that they're going to be 30 making these mistakes, right? But you have to make the mistake, right? Or I suppose you don't have to. Observational learning is a thing. You can learn from watching someone else make the mistake.
Yeah.
But very often it helps to make these small mistakes and then get them sorted for later, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't say, oh, this 16-year-old is a bad person because they cheated on their significant other, which basically translates to they put their arm around another girl or guy, right?
Right.
Like that's, but you can't say, oh, they're a bad person. No, they need to learn something, right? They
Mhm.
clearly they don't have it figured out yet. Is the right thing to say,
Yeah.
I think. And hopefully next time they do, because they'll realize they hurt someone, right? I think you're right.
It was funny you're talking about this. I just today, while I was getting rid of the crystals through a fiery lava shit out of my booty earlier, watched a clip that was a boy, and I can't remember what he said. It was like, had something to do with like he just or he would, oh yeah, I would cancel all my plans. Like if I made plans and then my girl just came up to me and said, I want to do something with you, I would always just cancel all my plans with my bros just to go be
Bad
with her.
dynamic. Bad
And
dynamic.
and then there's a bunch of other, how they cut themselves in, or it's like they what's the word I'm looking for, where they basically, it's like, okay, that video ends and now they put their face in there, right? And there's two different guys after another, and they're like, oh, you this must be your first girlfriend or something. They're like,
yes.
like, wait until they cheat on you, and then you find out you made all those sacrifices and you made all that, and You
Well, I don't know
destroy
about
your
that.
well, no, their
but,
point was you can destroy all your real relationships and find out that she was never dedicated to you in the first place. But also, like you said, it creates a bad dynamic because it's like you can't do that for the rest of your life. You will eventually burn
Yeah.
out.
you need to be your own person. Like there's
Yeah.
3 people in a relationship. There's you, there's them, and there's the relationship.
Mhm.
And you can't just sacrifice one of those 3. You can't just let it go, right? You
Right.
need to, bad dynamic.
I agree. Yeah, that does tie right back in. Look at all that wisdom.
Now, what were we talking about earlier? Where you were like, "Oh, you should talk about this on the podcast." Do you remember the what a relationship should be? Where it's like it's almost like the person doesn't matter to some people, and it's
Oh,
the
yeah.
situations around the person, right? Like, I love that whenever I want to get dinner, I can get dinner with someone. It's like, okay, well, that's probably not a good reason to be in a relationship with the person. You need to like actually like their soul, Like,
Yeah, well, what it
their
was is
spirit.
I'll just go ahead, okay, because I've talked about this on podcast anyway. So my Asian babe, right? So by the way, when I refer to her like that, that's just me being silly. So everybody take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, right. It's yeah.
So we were talking, and she was like, "Oh, you should definitely, make an investment. Start investing now. You don't want to wait until it's too late." And then she was like, "You should just at least put 1,000. Make a small investment of 1,000. You can use it with this. This is what I do. There's a USBS or UBS is what it is. Big company on TV. You'll see them all the time. It's not her personal anything, right? She was just like, you go do it." And I said, well, I don't have the money to do it. Like I had to go to the ER last. I've got to pay medical bills. There's this and this. I just don't have $1,000 free dollars right now. And I'm starting out with this company, so I don't really get money from them either. Like I will. It's definitely going to eventually evolve into something where I will make good money, but it's not there now. And all of a sudden after she found out, like, no, I really don't have money, the communication started trickling, and then it just and I was like, oh, that's, and I kind of, I never got too serious into it. And so I knew that I was like, okay, I figured that would be, that could be a catching point, right? And so yeah, I'm pretty sure we're done. And what it came from was like, well, we were talking about how many women, and then we started talking about the clips of women who are like, oh, I gotta have a man who makes $100K a year. Oh, I gotta have a man who's 6'2" and makes $100K a year. And so it was like, it was all these qualifications outside of who the person actually is, right? Like what kind of, how they will affect them as a soul, how they will affect them as in a relationship, which is what the relationship is about. And that's where we started going into like modern relationships are really kind of messed up and I think this may also have something to do with social media, right? Like they see all these women and there's podcasts and everything else talking about it, and it's like, if your man ain't this, then he's a trash man, right? And it did make me feel good because we were talking about the other clip where there was a woman who was defending her boyfriend, and I think maybe, like I said, maybe a fiance who was only making $40K a year, and he was a janitor. She's like, yeah, I just really respect. He works hard. He's a hardworking, caring man. And then there was a chick beside her who was single, right? And she was like, you want to be with him? He's not even making $100K. Just drop him and get a guy that makes $100K. And it was just like, ugh, to her. And it's like, well, yeah, that's probably why you're single, because your expectations are up here.
Just focused on the wrong thing, right? Like the soul is what matters, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you like the other person's, like, them?
Yes.
Right? Not their shit, not their stuff, not the extraneous details.
Right.
It's crazy though. I mean, I guess you can't totally, and I'm sure we would all agree, you can't totally get rid of some of those aspects, right? You would rather not have like a meth head, right? Like, and yet that is, I suppose, not the soul of the person. It is, but
Yeah.
So there must be some standard of stuff outside of just the soul. But I suppose the point that I would make is that the soul needs to be like top of the list, right? Like that's
percentage-wise,
really
it needs to be the majority. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it seems like it's not nowadays.
I agree.
Not just, but like men as well.
No, I agree.
Like very, very often, it's targeted at that extraneous stuff. Like we've lost the plot. I think.
No, I agree. Evil. Any feedback?
Yeah, I was just sitting there thinking that it was another podcast where the guy was like, okay, so you got this rich guy, all right, and and you're whatever 6-7 figures, but he's gonna go off to the fucking Cuba and cheat on you, or you can have this really faithful dude who is broke as hell, but he loves you. He sends you flowers and shit. And she was like, okay, so the rich guy cheats on you. And it was clearly a fucking decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Well, I think
just
there's that new movie about this, right? The Materialists, I think, with Chris Evans, Pedro Pascal, our favorite
Mm.
Pedro,
The most
and
manly of men, Pedro Pascal.
and Dakota Johnson is in it too.
Yeah.
But I think that's the plot. Is like she's got to pick between the two, and I think it's exactly like Evil just described it, right? Like one is rich, has almost no personality, right? And is just like definitely gonna not be involved. And the other one is like charismatic, lovable, right? Just has a bunch going for it, but is broke, hopelessly poor. Not just broke, hopelessly broke. And I think that's the plot of the movie. So it seems to be something people are at least wrestling with. I hope.
Yeah.
Uh,
I also feel like I don't know if there's anybody who's ever truly hopelessly broke. You know what I mean? Like, always feel like unless you're like 75 and starting to, like
Yeah.
you just don't have any way to restart or start doing something extra more to develop
Yeah.
yourself more. Anybody could get out of that, right? Like
you're right.
it's
You're right.
some of us are broke because we're in the process of getting out, and I think sometimes getting out of that loop, sometimes you have to be in a rough position to eventually get there. But yeah,
The long game.
no, I kind of agree with that. That's maybe, I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch that.
Oh, I'm not watching
Okay,
it. There's no
okay.
shot. And part of me thinks it might be actually bad that we're opening the discussion of would you rather just pick the rich guy, right?
Mhm.
Like, you
Like
know,
that's even a valid option. Yeah.
yeah, right. Like it would have been so obvious.
Would
like
you
20
rather
years
them not
ago.
respect you whatsoever and have zero actual empathy and like care and loyalty and dedication to you? Like, and they're like, well, okay, well, as long as he gives me money, I'll lie to myself.
Yeah.
Um,
And I've seen that be the thought process
Yeah.
in some of the girls at school. It's rough. It's rough.
it's
Very rough.
crazy. Yeah.
Hurts my
Well,
heart.
I just need to get rich and then I can get a hot 20 something when I'm fat and well, I'm already fat, but when I'm old, I'm already old too. Oh my God, it's no longer everything. Well, I did, and it did bring us up to what we were talking about, where we saw the comments under the interview with
Oh, the
Pedro
Pedro
Pascal,
and Dakota Johnson interview.
and there's just
yeah.
like utter delusion. Well, there's another
Yeah.
one that I didn't tell you about that I saw after we had that. It was another with Pedro Pascal, and he was just as like, oh my God, girl, no. And the very top comment was the dude was like, and people still question whether or not this guy's gay. Now I know he was making a joke, but that all the women underneath were like, oh my God, he's so amazing. It's so authentic. Oh, I would love him. He's so much better. Oh, he's great. It's like, y'all didn't catch that he's
feels very
clearly
inauthentic.
bullshit. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very
it
inauthentic. Like he's
feels
not actually this like, he's not actually your best. Just read your mind and everything your woman brain wants. He's clearly just playing into that because he gets popular with it.
Hey,
But-
he gets a ton of positive feedback for it,
Mhm.
right? Just like monumental amounts of praise for the more effeminate he acts.
Yep. And you can see it like escalating. He used to be kind of manly, and then
You're
now
absolutely
he's
right. You're absolutely you take a look at an interview that was done yesterday versus an interview that was done like when he was around for Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
Those are some different behaviors that you're
Yeah.
seeing there. Very different. I wonder why. And I think the cheap and easy answer, oh, well, he's grown, right? He's
Yeah.
understood and he's grown and he's taking control of his life. And I think how convenient that it is that he's doing what exactly you want him to do, right?
Yeah.
And that is in line with what brings out the best results, right? How convenient.
Yeah. Brings more women to the seats of the movie theaters that his movies play in.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think if you look at it at all with a rational mind, you would see that he is being inauthentic. Like it's that kind of fake. There's just like, no way, girl, you did.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so wild and great. Over like a just common ass statement. There's just like,
Yes.
there's no reason to be overreacting like that.
And I
Uh,
would have no issue with him just being an effeminate dude if it
mhm,
was like how he
exactly.
was,
Yeah,
right? Like if it was authentic, but like that's what the world needs right now is authenticity,
yeah.
right? That's all I want is authenticity. And if you're pandering, right, you're fucking it. Um, I'm trying to think of other like more effeminate actors. I can't think of too many. Maybe the guy who played Lucifer, right? He seems naturally a bit more effeminate.
Yeah, I don't know
Um,
him well enough to.
Simon Baker, the guy who played the Mentalist. There's a few that
Yeah.
stick out to me
Well, I
as
mean,
more effeminate
there's a
than
few that played good straight characters and masculine, but off screen
they were
they're
gay.
gay.
Yeah,
But that's like okay, good. You played a part. I understand.
on
You
the
played
screen
and
as an
then you
actor,
are who
right?
you really are, and it's authentic. I'm cool with that. But yeah, it's when yeah, it's an issue. Um, part of I was going to also bring up. Okay, so I'm just going to take a picture there. This kind of leads into that because we were talking about the comments underneath, and this is a pet peeve I is because I like Korean culture, right? And I love Korean variety shows. Part of that is though they always have K-pop stars come in onto their shows to do a little thing, and they play games with them. But people always these like netizens or whatever, they try to make everybody who's even like slightly playful or a little bit like really kind and affectionate. I'm sorry, towards each other. They immediately try to make them gay. Like there's this one female who's not gay, but she's just very emotive. Like her face, she just like looks at you, like she looks at people very like kind and open, like emotive with her face, and be like, oh, look at how she's looking at this other person. It's clear that she wants her, and it's just like just comment after comment. Yes, yes. Oh, she's so curious. By all the, and it's like everybody is just getting. It's like no, it's annoys me so bad because it's the thing that they would get super angry at other people for doing if they did the opposite. If they're like, oh, definitely, like if it's a gay person, they're like, oh, they're just pretending to be gay. They're definitely straight. They want to bang the. Like if they did that, the same people would be like, that is so sexy. Oh, that's so horrible. Right. Homophobic, but for some reason it's okay for them to do it to a straight person, right? Like to just put on them their own fantasies.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I mean, that's like mind-blowingly crazy, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know how you like, why are people so invested in other people's sexuality anyway, exactly. Right? Like, I'm gonna go get a book while he's doing that because I had to read this. The school that I work at gives us all summer reading, so we got summer reading. I'm gonna bring this to you. No, I'm here. I'm here.
No, he was grabbing it.
I was just going to get the thing. So here's the book, right? I don't know if you can. Is that showing up right, or is it backwards? Yeah.
No,
So it's
okay.
grounded in grace, right? Basically, Principal has said that he wants to focus in the years to come on the topic of identity, right? He thinks it's a major, and I totally agree. Like middle school, high school, that is when identity largely is formed. And he said, well, the guy in the book, Jonathan D. Holmes, who, by the way, I believe is Korean American. So there you go, preacher. Enjoy that one. Um, he says that, well, there's a few ways that people typically discern their identity or create their identity. The old school method was my parents determine my identity, right? If your dad's a baker, you're a baker. If your dad's a cobbler, you're a cobbler. It's what you do. And your identity is formed by living up to the standards of your parents who put them upon you, right? And he said, well, that probably wasn't the greatest idea because it trapped a lot of people where they really didn't flourish. And so now we've changed to instead of I am what my parents say, now we've gone to I am what I feel, right? And there's a huge chunk of this book that is about how identity is so grounded nowadays in how I feel sexually, right? How I feel about what's going on in my body and so on, right? And he says, well, that one can't really work either. Feelings are fickle. They change very, very quickly, especially in middle and high school, right? From one day to the next, we feel totally different, right? We can absolutely love someone one day, absolutely hate them the other day, and then back to loving them the third day, as we discussed earlier in the podcast, by the way, right? It's not just middle and high school, right? Um, So his, and I hate to do it because I've said many times I really want to avoid bringing God into it, but the book is called Grounded in Grace. Where did you think it was going, right? Um, so he basically argues that we are what God says we are, right? And that we don't really have control. It's what God has made us, what God has, you know. I've heard it from Steve Harvey in his little discussions. He says, "Don't follow your passion, follow your gift." Right? Whatever God has given you that you are good at, that's what you should pursue, not necessarily what
Right.
you're passionate about. Right?
Right.
Uh, but that's pretty much it. Right? I actually I don't know. I'm afraid of telling the kids you are what God says you are. I'm afraid of doing that because I think it genuinely strips power from them that God wants them to have. Right? I do think God wants them to have a say in who they are, who they become, um, and I'm nervous that the more we say you are not your worst mistake, God loves you, so on and so forth, we allow and accept what's it called, mediocrity or not pushing oneself to be as good as they can. I'm nervous about that message that you are what God says you are, and you don't need to grow and you know I can't imagine a parent that doesn't want their child to be incredible. Um, I can't. I can't imagine a parent who wants their child to be um, I don't want to say pathetic, but that is how it feels like sometimes it's discussed, right? Like that, like
I
God doesn't want us to grow and be good. Go for it.
I've seen very poor examples of this, but there are plenty of narcissists that don't want to be outshined by their own children,
Yeah,
and
right.
I have
Brutal, right?
unfortunately seen that. And so yeah, yeah, I that's a tough spot you're in as a teacher, and
Yeah. Well, it's not just that, right? Like I forget who I was talking to when I said it, but like there's a lot of people out there that promote like helping others, right? Um, like if I make 100,000 a year and you make 50,000 a year, I might say, oh yeah, let's give you some tips. Let's sort it out. But the minute you start making 120,000 a year, suddenly my attitude towards you changes, right? There's a
right,
certain, and I think a lot of people have this where it's like, I will help you shine, but if you outshine me, that shit is done, right? I am now your enemy. And I think it's unfortunate that that's how a lot of it works, right? The parent to child thing is crazy though, right? Like, it breaks down like a fundamental element of having kids or I think, and I suppose I'm glad you brought it up because I do regularly think with regard to some of the kids that I teach, there's one, Jared, super smart kid, right? And super dedicated to his work and to studying and he's a nerd, right? Classic nerd, right? And I often think, dude, this kid is gonna be he's going to be a mover in some sort of world, right? Like he's going to get involved with something and he's going to shake it up and he's going to do an amazing job. Like
yeah,
it's not a matter of if he outshines me, it's when, right?
yeah,
Um, and for a fraction of a second, I thought, that's not great. But then I thought, no, that's exactly what I want, right? Like if that wasn't the case, then I wouldn't be doing my job as a teacher, right? Like if I wanted them to not outshine me, I'm the last person that should be in that role. Same with parenting, right? If I don't want them to outshine me, I'm the last person that should be in that role. It
yeah.
must be a genuine, from your heart, desire for them to succeed, right? Um, no, I think that's interesting. I never thought about it that way, but now I have. It's good. What
I
do you
mean,
think, preacher? Enjoy. When I agree. Yeah, the hot fire chemical coming out of that ass right now. Man, it's
ooh
you.
boy,
You can't see it, but I'm in Florida. He's in Tennessee. I can smell it from here.
oh boy, yeah. We get plenty of that smell down here in Texas, so it's a little lost in translation. Oh
What do you want to
boy,
talk about, Evil? We got all the
you
time in the
you
world.
know What's funny is you're sitting there talking about the AI, and I was just sitting there like trying to logically piece it together.
Mhm.
And the people who are pushing it tend to be like executives of companies who
Yeah.
need to replace worthless workers. And they have to replace those workers because we have such a shit education system, not teaching kids how to actually learn. And then they go to depend on that kind of stuff. So, it's like a negative feedback loop.
Yeah.
Getting dumber, getting dumber, getting dumber, needing more, needing more, needing more. So
Yeah.
it's just inevitable.
I think you're right. The part I always get attached with is how it completely hampers the human connective tissue, right? Like it erodes the relationship aspect of things. Like there's a Wendy's I hit up on the way home from the gym every day, right? Um, well, not every day, but close to every day. And it has one of those AI tellers, right? It's like, "Hello, welcome to Wendy's. Please feel free to order whenever you are ready."
Yeah.
And so I order, but I made some kind of a connection with the cashier. She's an older woman named Carmen, and we were joking around, and she said on like the third day I was there, she was like, "Oh, can I ask you to do the survey for me?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll do the survey for you." Right. So I went on my phone, I did the stupid survey, right, rated her highly because she was a great cash, did the job wonderfully, the food's good, um, and then she said, "Okay, great. So since you've done it, they should have given you a code. Come on in, and you get a free item with it, right?" And I like went in, and because it was the AI teller, I didn't know how to do it. I was like, how do I use the code, right? So I just didn't. And I rolled up to the window and I was like, hey, I don't know how to use this thing, but I would like to, right? And she was like, okay, tomorrow come back and ask for me at the window and I'll help you. And so I did that, and the next day, and she gave me the entire order for free. Right? She was just here. And my point here is that the only way that would have happened, this positive experience would have happened, is with the human connective tissue, right? The AI
Right.
was getting in the way of that this whole time, and
Yeah.
I just didn't, and no one would be any wiser that it was getting in the way. But the minute you remove it from the picture, human connection can flourish, things get better for everyone involved, right? Um,
Yep.
I got a free meal out of it, and Carmen gets to smile when she sees me with my orange hat pulling through the drive-through, right? 9 o'clock on weekdays. Great, right? The positive experience. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we're back. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, we're back. Everything's great. Nothing happened. Oh, shit. I don't know where I'm going to cut. I'm sure there's a point in there I could probably cut just a little bit of this. But anyway. Yeah, no, I agree with the AI thing. I was going to go back to, I guess it was funny. There's a thing where you were pointing out that I know you don't like bringing God into discussions. I don't, but now I was going to explain why I don't mind it. Mostly because, okay, so I've been in, even before I got into high end academia, I was into apologetics, right? And that's a lot of people who like to be intelligent and learned, right? And I find that the people who are most, I feel like it's taking out an element of discussion that should be there. And so I almost find people who like almost try to devalue a argument or a topic because somehow God gets involved. Like it's an intellectual cop out for them. It's an act of fear. They're trying to, they just don't want to deal with having to intellectually process, because you could still say, oh, I've processed it, I disagree with it, and I turn it down. But I don't ever like taking an L. It's like, I would never listen to a gay person because whatever, or I will never listen to a trans person's argument. And so I think it needs to at least be involved. I'm not saying, I agree with you when people get to like the point where they're like, I don't have to make a logical argument because God says so. That's when
Yeah.
I have an issue with it. And that's why I think they have an issue with it. That's where I think the initial, it's like, well, no, you have to explain to me still. But I think if you can make a logical argument and still have that element in it, it should be at least part of the discussion so we can have a full discussion. And also, because I do, as you know, as a practicing Christian, I do believe that there's a lot of truth in it, and it is a genuine real path. So it would be almost like wrong for me to be like, we're going to have this discussion, but we're not going to discuss the thing that I think is real and like an answer to the question. It's like you almost have to find the question or find the answer without the answer being, I'm going to remove. If it was a multiple choice test, there's A, B, C, and D. I'm going to take D off, even though D was the actual answer. You know, it's like I have to. So I think it's just how you approach the topic is important. Like that's why I don't. You know, I'm not as anti using it. And I know a lot of people will hear it and turn it off, but I think that says something about more about them than the actual like us talking about it. But yeah, no, that was just like why don't mind. I mean, I would never turn this into a religious podcast, but if it happens to pop up and fit, then so be it.
What did you think of that identity book?
I thought it was interesting. I kind of agree with you. It's like, well, I mean, that kind of got back to what I was saying. It's when people take, because I think some of what he said was true, but then it's the weird conclusion, right? Where people go, oh, well, that means you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to try. You don't have to do anything. Just be whatever. And because I know that happens a lot with like apologetics, right? There's the people who are like, oh, everything that happens in your life, God controls every little element, and like it'll all happen regardless. You have no part. You're just a meaningless robot that goes through life.
Cocaine, then.
Yeah, that's why I thought, oh, well, then I'm going to, do whatever, because no matter what, everything's going to turn out the exact same, right? I think that is it's an intellectual cop-out is what it is. But the core of, like, what you are is placed there by God for you to use. You can choose whether to use it or not, just like salvation, right? It's like, the Bible, on my arm, I literally have the Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19 through 20 is, choose ye this day, blessing or cursing, life or death. The Bible tells us it's there, the option's there, but you still have to choose it. Salvation, you have to choose to accept the gift. It's a gift made available for all, but you have to there's a choice. And so I think that's where you were saying, it's like, I agree with it. It's like, God gives you a sense of purpose and what you're supposed to do. There is a way you could go through life and be the most satisfied. It is inside of you. It will fulfill you to the highest degree, but you have to, and a lot of times what he puts in you is, it needs to be worked on and worked. It's not like, oh, you naturally will just be the best ever. It's like, he puts the kernel, but then you gotta do the farming and the watering and the fertilizing and all that to make it, you gotta put the work in. And so, I guess going back to your book, it's a lot of people do that, right? They take a good nugget of information that is like, yes, that's correct, and then they just put their little they then take it a little too far, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's my take on, because I was listening.
Regarding that point, I think I've told you that one of the teachers at our school needed a liver transplant, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was really he needed it, right?
And he didn't win like most.
Okay, I know.
Sorry.
Absurd, right?
Yeah.
He needed a liver transplant, and he told them, "Hey, I'm on the list. If it shows up, I'll need to go immediately, right? So we'll need to figure it out." Sure enough, it happened like maybe 2 months into him being on the list, which is awesome, right? That's super cool. And he went up, got the liver, came back, and he's basically been talking a lot about his testimony about worry and how in his youth he would worry about everything, right? Just incessantly worry about things. And here he was as tranquil as could be, right? God's got me covered, right? And yet the part that sticks out to me is, well, yes,
but
I agree. God's got you covered. However, you put yourself on the list, right? You took the step that was necessary to get what God had for you. In this instance, it is abundantly clear, I need a liver, go to the list. Need A, do B, right? Clear. For a huge part of our lives, I think it's unclear what we do to get the thing, that's hard.
Yeah.
And yet I think it's really important that, and I think it's very often not stressed, that we got to do something to get, we have to have some agency, right? There's 2 Bible verses that stick out to me, and they contrast in a certain way, and I struggle with them a lot. So at the start, Adam and Eve in the garden, right? Eden. They're not supposed to eat from the tree of knowledge, right? the fruit from the tree of knowledge. So it seems in that the hinting is God meant us to be ignorant about things, right? God meant us to not know things. And then later on, there's the parable about the 3 people who serve a master, and the master is going to leave, and he gives them talents, which I think are like coins, right?
Yeah.
And 2 of them invest it and return the new invested money, right? Like one gets 10 talents, which is like, all right, cool, great. And I think that this translates to humanity, right? Like maybe preacher, you're exceptional, you get 10 talents, right? 10 things that you're good at. I know it was currency in the story, but I think talents is an interesting
I
word.
agree. It applies. Yeah.
You get 10 things that you're good at. I'm okay. I get 5, right? And evil he sucks. He gets 2,
Yeah.
right? But let's say in this scenario, you 2 invest it, and you end up with 13, and evil ends up with 5, whereas I end with the 5 that I was given, right? God would look at me with disdain, right? I don't understand how these 2 fit together, because it seems like in the one space you're supposed to be ignorant and not knowledgeable, and then in the other space you're supposed to develop your skills, develop your talents, and grow what God has given you.
Well,
and how could you do that without knowledge?
I think part of it is a little bit of clarity, and it was not just the tree of knowledge; it was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So it was good and bad, and so basically, I think that actually kind of comes across as, especially when they go back into the original Hebrew, it was almost like people didn't know how to defy God. That's really what it was. It was they learned evil. They were only capable of understanding God and fulfilling their and because God told them, till the earth and make it fruitful and protect. Like he told them to do work, like name the animals, right? Like they were told to. So God never said like, oh, you don't have knowledge. It was more of like they just weren't sure. They were not built in a way to just defy. They almost didn't have that. Ooh, sin is fun. Oh, hold on. Hey, when I bang the hooker, wow, that's pretty good. It's like...
So if I'm following this, it then adds a wrinkle of confusion as to how I've understood. Why did they try to hide themselves because they were naked? Is it evil to be naked? You know what I mean?
That's what... I don't think that it was...
I thought it was just ignorant.
I think I don't think it's necessarily. I think the word even knowledge there is a little. I really need to get back into. If I remember correctly, it's not like a head knowledge. It's like a perception. So like they all of a sudden they had like they could think of all the bad things of being naked, if that makes sense. Like before they were just naked, right? And they just were like, oh yes, this is natural. We have our marital relations when we need, and it's no big deal. We're not. And then, but after they were like. They could all of a sudden they start thinking about all the bad things, and they realized, oh, there's all these things I want to do that is not. So it wasn't necessarily that they didn't and I don't think even naked is being evil. It's just that now we're so tainted, right? Like the whole idea is now we're tainted. We need to be renewed. So it's like if we didn't have the sin nature, then we could all walk around. We wouldn't need clothes, right? Like there's no reason because we wouldn't have the negative. Evil elements of it. It's like, everybody would be honest, right? You wouldn't have to try to parse out who's telling the truth and who's not, and who you wouldn't be like, oh, I can get a leg up on this guy and I can take some of his stuff if I just lie to him. So I think it's more along those lines than it is like an actual like head knowledge, if that makes sense. It's
a little bit. I still struggle because so much
Yeah.
Around it seems to indicate that it was just ignorance versus knowledge to me. That I need to go back through it, which is good. I ordered a Bible, so I got to go pick it up after this.
Yeah.
But no, that's interesting.
No, I get the thought there though. It's because it is kind of a. Well, the problem is also that's pure. It's allegory, right? It wasn't like the guy's name was like on his birth certificate was Adam. It just meant first man, and Eve meant first woman, right? It's like there was a man and there was a woman, and it was just it's a general tale about how they figured stuff out. It wasn't and so it's a little tough to.
It's very tricky for me.
It was used to teach a principle, but I don't know if it was the principle that we're.
Well,
like you said, I need to go back. It's been a while since
I took away was we were not supposed to have the knowledge. Right? We were meant to shine as children do, ignorant of right and wrong, I suppose, good and evil, and other things like that. That was what I took away from that.
Because I guess because there's gonna be a new heaven and new earth, right? Where sin no longer has control. There's an actual scripture that talks about like after. Armageddon or whatever, the Revelations and
Yeah.
all that happen. There's new heaven, new earth,
Yeah.
and we go there, and then there's like we don't have, and Satan is captured and imprisoned, and we no longer have that like. I don't know the temptation or it's not as strong. I wonder if we know, but we just don't have the desire, like the inherent human desire. Like it's crazy. I am fat because I have an inherent desire to eat more than I should. Right? Like I should just eat for nutrition. And it was still I could still taste. I mean, there's plenty of good tasty food that would have me be healthy, but there's like candy bar, right? And it's just something inside of me that makes me like when I need an emotional fix, when I'm feeling lonely or whatever, I just, and so, yeah, it's like, I feel like that's the part that gets taken away maybe more than it's been a while since I was in ministry heavy, but it's been a while. And I'd have to, it's like asking the math question that I haven't had, math class for 15 years. I'm like, I remember something
you
about
remember talking about the question, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah,
Man,
exactly.
that's familiar.
Yeah, man, that was, it was good. We went an hour and a half, and I think that was actually a pretty good little ending. I like leaving people with a little bit of a question. They can think about it, ponder it themselves, come up with their own conclusion. Write in the comments below after they like the video. Whether you like it or not, I don't care. Just give me likes, so it makes my videos go up.
Dislikes affect the algorithm just as
That's
much
right.
as far as
well,
I'm
that's
aware,
fine too.
so-
Yes, go ahead and dislike. Well, unless I think if it's like too high of a dislike, they.
I heard a great quote that was like, if you liked it, like it, and if you disliked it, send it to your enemies.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yes, that's awesome. Please do that. But yeah, so anyway, I appreciate you guys. Anybody who made it this long, thank you. I appreciate you making it through my hot lava diarrhea break, and I'll see you next week. I might do a middle one with Brody because I know he may be struggling to make it on Saturday, so I may do a second one with him that's more, I don't know, we'll figure that. People are hard,
See them
man.
when you see them.
Yeah, I'll see you when I see you. Usually, but there will always be one per week. There's absolutely going to be a weekend podcast. Now, if I add on to that or whatever, I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, bye. Go away. I'm going to put on music now.